Hi, my name is Benedict, introducing new device. This is the RTFM, the manual for this device. So please be sure you watch it before purchasing it, using it, and firing off silly, unnecessary questions. It is a 64-bit VST3 for Windows. There is no Mac version, so please don't ask me if there's a Mac version, because there isn't a Mac version. There isn't likely to be a Mac version unless I happen to have a Mac tester who I can trust and rely upon 150%, in which case, no Mac version. Sorry if that offends you, but there is no Mac version because there is no Mac version. Alrighty, moving forward. It is called EchoSwitch. It's a bit of a funny name, and I contemplated, weird jumbled letters and what have you, but quite honestly, what it does is it switches between a couple of echoes, or crossfades between the two, but echo cross or cross echo just sounds a little too angry, even for me. Let's have a quick listen to an A-B. Here's something I played earlier. Dry. Here how we're adding depth, movement, and a kind of je ne sais quoi sparkle to this. As it says on the subtext, tri-mod delays, so triple modulated delays. We will get to how that is triple and why this does, or how this does what it does. The why is a little beyond me at the moment, but I think it's just because it keeps the old noggin confused, which is a great thing, and most mix engineers of merit understand that if things are the same all the time, the brain starts to ignore them, whereas if they're constantly a little unexpected, we're like, ooh, that's excited. I speak about that often, and I think this achieves its special unknown something simply because it's constantly giving something more unexpected than we are used to. We'll work through. Here is our donor piece. Now, this is not about whether you like the music or think that it's relevant to your genre style. We're merely looking at the A-Bs. So we've got a pad and that electric piano playing. We'll start by bringing in the loopers, which are giving us a little bit of tape-like movement, one each for the pair of devices, and then a reverb, which is the R3500, which has had a little update just to give it overall a bit more level on the wet, because it could be a bit too low. So we notice the extra depth, movement, excitement that we get with these. Now we'll bring these EchoSwitch in. Not only do we get more depth and space, but there's that sparkle and movement. Now for the pad. This is obviously changing the mix because I'm using that to push that pad back a little bit as well, which is all part of what echoes are about. But here how we've got this nicer sense of movement and space and sparkle in every sound. These devices are designed to work together. You can make fair improvements or amounts of movement with any single one, but part of the reason that I'm showing them working together is because they're designed to work together. They're designed to feed each other. So in this case, the EchoSwitch is feeding the looser tape movement, which is feeding the analog rooms. What we will do is look through the device and its feature set and how it works. We will be using this really charmless donor sound so that we can clearly hear the differences. This is close to the default patch. There is no more than this patch. It's up to you to work out what you need it to do in the situation. There is no such thing as presets in mixing. See it how you will. You may choose to save off your own presets if that works between you and your god. The process is a little different from what we're used to, and you will need to come to terms a little bit. There are indicators in that 1 and 2 here are colored differently, as they are here as well, to remind us that there's something that connects these together. Now, essentially, we have got 2 echoes. We've got 2 echoes for the left-hand signal, so they're hardwired to the left-hand input. 2 echoes which are hardwired to the right-hand input. We've then got this system that switch or crossfades between the 1 and the 2. So we've got our echoes left and right, and then we are moving between the pair of those in real time. You do need to get your head around this, otherwise it will seem random and strange. There's probably no easier way, or there's definitely no easier way that I could think of as displaying this without doing something really weird and convoluted and worse than this. You just need to understand that the architecture is that the signal comes in, the left-hand signal is sent to this delay, and this delay. The right-hand signal is sent to this delay and this delay, which are obviously summed and fed back and what have you. And then the switcher allows a switch or crossfade between the 1 or 2, or the A or B. I considered naming them A or B, but I ended up sticking with 1 and 2. We can switch off the switcher and then just listen to only time 1 or time 2. Let's make these really short. So time 1 is really short. Time 2 is a bit long. And then both. Obviously you end up hearing more of time 2 with the feedback, simply because feedback for time 1 kind of disappears under time 2 because it's the longer. But you can hear an extra kind of depth that occurs here. Not only in a reverb-like feel, but like in a multi-part chorus sort of feel, because we are actually doing a bit of both. Each of these, like the time 1 has a modulator, time 2 has a modulator. So this isn't for the right and for the left, these are for the 2 times. You create your stereo by the left and rights never being quite the same as each other. It is possible to put this into a small mode, so the delay times become very short, which turns them into a chorus. So rather than being echoed times, they turn into chorus times. Again, so we can listen to time 1, time 2, or both. Now here's where it gets really interesting. If we switch in the switcher, hear how now that really riches up? There is some distortion there. Not quite sure where that's coming from. It's probably from this, in which case we'll switch him out. Yep, too loud for that one. I solved that problem. To hear how that becomes richer, what we're doing is we're crossfading between 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, constantly rocking backwards and forwards between time 1 and time 2, which is easier to hear here. Turn the feedback up again. You can hear how we're constantly hearing these two different times. So it's essentially a multi-tap delay where we're crossfading between two tap streams. Obviously, if our times become more complex, then we start to have these more interesting patterns. You can, of course, switch, but they're not going to sound great most of the time, but I left them here just because sooner or later somebody is going to find a purpose for them. You can switch this into time 1 or time 2. All that does is weight across to one side. It's primarily designed for turning the switch off just so that you can fine-tune your times. You can reduce the overall depth of the switch modulation from nothing up to full. Hear how that becomes richer because it's constantly moving. And remember that time 1 and time 2 have different LFO rate and depths. Therefore, if once we start to think, okay, I'm hearing chorus like this and then I'm hearing chorus like this, we're actually hearing a far more complex signal. And depending upon how you want to handle your crossfades between the two of them, that constant sort of sense of, oh no, we're going over there, it just keeps the mind, oh, I've got to pay attention to this so that I can get my head around it, which makes it exciting, and we become a lot more interested in it. Obviously, we can mix between fully dry signal, what goes in comes out, and a fully wet signal. And then a high pass, and a low pass. You might have noticed I bypass something. Just here with the feedback, you can control the input of time 2 to be just the dry signal coming into number 2 or 100% of time 1. So the delay from 1 is output to 2. It's output to wet, but it's also output to 2. So 2 then becomes driven only by 1. So you can think of that as becoming like a pre-delay if you're thinking reverb, because obviously this will do basic but quite charming reverbs, or mix and match, so that L and R2 are now receiving the original signal as well as the proceeds of whatever's happening at left and right 1. Which makes for smoother tails, if that's what's concerning you there, because that can definitely be an issue if we've got very short times here. Yeah, it's quite different. Put our switcher back in. Obviously, these are going to need to be built to suit your actual piece, hence why presets are eminently useless. You will find that most of the time, if you have these reasonably close to one another, because if the times are too far apart, they will feel very gapped out. But somebody's going to find a great purpose for that. Someone's going to go, ooh, if I apply this to my drum loops or whatever, I'm going to get this kind of sound that I want. Now, deliberately, none of these are BPM synced. Do this all by feel, which is why you've got the ability to turn this off and switch to T1 or T2 so that you can set them up by feel should a rhythmic thing be required. If you can't set that up, then it's a thing you've got to learn to do. This probably isn't going to be the easiest place to learn, but you can learn here as much as you can in any other Echo that has a millisecond thing, and that doesn't mean that you go doing the math with a calculator. As you see, this has got no timing. It is all by feel, and the way that you set that by the groove that you feel will be your style. So that's showing it as being useful on a bassy kind of sound, which we could see how they're definite there. They start to blur. As we do this. So it's a character thing that is between straight delay echoes, chorusing, and out to the edges of reverb. Well, it will literally do reverb. If we move this to a pad type sound, give it a little bit of character. Dry, wet. With the switching off, and switching on. The difference is subtle, but when you're sitting in front of nicely set up speakers, then you should feel that this just suddenly becomes that little bit richer and more sparkly without treble as such. And that is essentially it. You will need to take your time to understand it. Any questions about the product? Not if it has a Mac version down below. Please keep that constructive conversation. There's just no point us having a non-constructive conversation. Everything you need to know about this device is in this video already. But if there's something you're not really understanding, fine. The installation, I'll try and remember to write something up the front in text for people to ignore, but it's as simple as taking the folder, unzipping it, putting the folder in your VST3 folder, which should be under Program Files, Common, and VST3. Pop it in there, it should appear in your DAW, provided your DAW is happy to see a Windows 64-bit VST3. Almost any modern DAW will be. Do take your time to understand how this works. If you rush in just going, then you're going to go, well, this is really weird. Yes, it's different. I'm deliberately stepping outside of the usual because I'm looking for different results. Therefore, we have to do things a little differently, but you'll find the architecture surprisingly simple once you get over that initial speed hump of like, huh? That's simply because I've got more layers in here than you're used to. If you're finding that difficult because you're not suited to it, and not everybody is suited to this, I am not suited to playing guitar, which is why I don't do it. I specialize in what I'm suited to, then hire somebody. Obviously, I am suited to this because this is what I do. This is my thing in life, to be a mix engineer and to understand all these subtleties behind why this works and how, therefore, it will work in your song if and when I mix it. All right, have fun. You have a great day.